According to the former commander of the U.S. Army in Europe, Germany has good reason to fear that Russia may start a full-scale war because Putin is capable of doing the unimaginable if he believes NATO is unprepared. Retired Lieutenant General Ben Hodges says he thinks World War III might break out in about 18 months if countries don't act in alliance and take Russia's threat seriously. His remarks follow the release of top-secret German Ministry of Defense documents that detailed a doomsday strategy on how Russia can intensify the crisis in Ukraine into a larger conflict. The German Daily Bild released the leaked documents, which show in detail how Putin will invade Belarus to start a third world war, just as he did in February 2022 for his war in Ukraine. Retired U.S. Army Brigadier General Kevin Ryan concurred that there was a threat and added that NATO's not getting ready could invite war. The horrifying documents were leaked a few days after Sweden's Minister of Civil Defense issued a warning that war may soon break out and asked people to enlist in volunteer defense forces in case Russia launched an attack. However, Ben Hodges, who oversaw the U.S. Army in Europe from 2014 to 2018, emphasized that a full-scale conflict would only be possible if Russia believed that NATO was unprepared or disjointed. Russia only respects strength, he declared. They will keep going if they detect any signs of weakness. If they did, it was because they judged that we lacked the necessary resources, such as enough ammo or the speed to move quickly enough, or that we were not prepared or cohesive within the alliance. However, they still have a long way to go if we are ready. He went on to say that while it would appear scary, Germany's plans show that they are treating the issue seriously. He declared, "The best way to stop a war from ever starting is to show that you're ready for it." The UK has long been aware of the threat posed by Russia, but Germany is now starting to realize that if they don't get ready, things will only get worse. Thus, nations ought to start preparing themselves with the appropriate tools and resources. And that's what Germany is doing. The civilian leadership won't be able to move quickly enough if they don't think there is a threat, he continued. The way our leaders speak to us needs to change. It indicates that you're exercising prudence, which is precisely what we should be doing. It doesn't imply that you're a scaremonger. The threat posed by Moscow is being taken seriously by Germany's defense chiefs, as seen by the Bundeswehr's preparations for a hybrid Russian strike on NATO's eastern flank by the summer of 2025. Russia intends to mobilize an additional 200,000 soldiers domestically prior to initiating a spring operation against Ukrainian forces this year, as per the classified Alliance Defense 2025 dossier. According to Mr. Hodges, the Kremlin isn't powerful enough right now to assemble the troops and supplies required to wage a full-scale conflict. He declared, "The Kremlin does not have the ability right now. But that might change if we are unable to assist Ukraine. And after that, there's a pretty good chance." The documents that were revealed show that by June, with fewer weapons and cooperation from the West, Russia would win the war and move significantly through Ukraine. Putin took advantage of this achievement by launching cyber attacks in the Baltics in July and instigating violence in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania under the pretext that these countries are home to ethnic Russian minorities. Putin's allies have already utilized this strategy to defend their invasions of Ukraine in 2014 and 2022 when they went all out. Russia's meddling would lead to clashes in Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, and Putin would use this as justification to begin a massive drill in which 50,000 Russian troops would be dispatched to western Russia and Belarus by September. A month later, Putin would take it a step further, deploying troops and medium-range missiles to Kaliningrad, the Russian enclave sandwiched between Lithuania and Poland. Meanwhile, Putin and his allies would keep up their saber-rattling, alleging that NATO is getting ready to strike Russia and endangering their security as a country. Putin's allies have already utilized this strategy to defend their invasions of Ukraine in 2014 and 2022 when they went all out. The documents stated that Moscow would refute false information by December of this year regarding a border war and riots with numerous deaths in the Suwalki Gap. The records show that shortly after, Moscow accuses the West of planning an attack on Russia during an unusual meeting of the UN Security Council. In the event of a doomsday, Poland and the Baltic nations would declare an escalating Russian threat and request assistance during a special NATO summit held in January 2025. However, Russia would seize the opportunity, and by March 2025, the Kremlin would send additional forces in the direction of Belarus and the Baltics. Putin would have amassed 70,000 soldiers by the end of the month, divided between 2 tank divisions and a mechanized infantry division. In an attempt to thwart any Russian attack on the Suwalki Gap from the direction of Belarus and Kaliningrad, NATO would meet again 2 months later, in May 2025, to deliberate on the growing Russian threat to its security and determine measures for credible deterrence. Based to the leaked documents, NATO planned to send 300,000 soldiers, including 30,000 from Germany, to its eastern flank on an unspecified date known as Day X, to protect against an imminent Russian attack. Given that the scenario concludes 30 days after Day X, it is unclear from the documents if the deployment of NATO forces will prevent Russia. Speaking to Bild, a spokesman for the German Ministry of Defense stated that while they would not comment on the particular NATO defense scenario, in essence, I can tell you that part of routine military operations, particularly during training, involves taking into account various scenarios, even if they are incredibly unlikely. The horrifying documents were made public just as the Prime Minister of Estonia issued a warning, saying that Europe has 3 to 5 years to get ready in case Russia resurfaces as a major military danger to NATO's eastern flank. Only a few days prior, Sweden's Minister of Civil Defense issued a warning that war might soon be on the horizon for his nation. Teenagers terrified of war flooded Sweden's mental health hotlines with calls within a day of his speech. It coincides with the announcement made by UK Defence Secretary Grant Shapps that the country will send 20,000 soldiers to one of the biggest NATO drills since the Cold War. Shapps described the deployment as the largest the UK has made to NATO in 40 years and stated that it is intended to provide vital reassurance regarding the menace that Russian President Vladimir Putin poses as a result of his invasion of Ukraine. Along with troops from 31 other members of the military alliance and Sweden, a prospective member, the British soldiers, who are members of the Royal Air Force, Royal Navy, and Army, will deploy throughout Europe and beyond for the current exercise Steadfast Defender. In an extensive speech in London, Shapps stated, "Today's NATO is bigger than ever, but the challenges are bigger too," warning that the international rules-based system was facing increasing difficulties. He said, and for that reason, the United Kingdom has pledged to NATO all of its air, land, and maritime assets. I can announce today that the UK will send in approximately 20,000 personnel to lead one of NATO's largest deployments since the end of the Cold War, the leader said, demonstrating his determination to accomplish even more in 2024. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and to make sure you don't miss my future work, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and press the bell notification button. Thank you and see you in the next video.